The crystal glasses clinked as Michael raised a toast to his wife. To 5 wonderful years with the most beautiful woman in the world. Sophia smiled, her eyes meeting his across the candlelit table. But as she lifted her glass, something changed. Her smile faltered. The glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the floor. And then, she collapsed. Across the restaurant, Dr. Nathan Reed wasn't celebrating. The brilliant young oncologist was dining alone, his mind still on his patients, when the commotion erupted. He didn't know then how his life would become intertwined with the woman who had just collapsed, or that beneath his calm exterior lay a connection to her so profound it would change everything. Before we continue the story, let us know where you're watching from. Someone call an ambulance. The cry cut through the hushed conversations and clinking silverware of the restaurant. Diners turned to see a woman slumped in her chair, her husband standing frozen beside her. Dr. Nathan Reed was on his feet before he'd even made the conscious decision to move. "I'm a doctor," he announced, pushing through the small crowd that had gathered. The woman's skin had taken on an alarming yellow tinge, and her breathing was shallow. "What happened?" Nathan asked, kneeling beside her chair. "I don't know," the husband replied, his voice tight with shock. "She was fine, and then she just fell." Nathan placed 2 fingers against Sophia's neck, counting her rapid pulse. "Sir, what's your wife's name?" "Sophia. Sophia Warner." Something flickered across Nathan's face, so brief it was almost imperceptible. "Sophia," he said gently, trying to rouse her. "Sophia, can you hear me?" Her eyelids fluttered but didn't open. "Has she been ill recently? Any symptoms you've noticed?" Nathan asked, his calm professional demeanor masking the strange jolt he'd felt at hearing her name. Michael shook his head. "She's been tired. Some stomach pain. We thought it was just stress from a big project." The wail of approaching sirens cut through the air. Nathan stayed beside Sophia, monitoring her vitals until the paramedics arrived. As they transferred her to a stretcher, he made a quick decision. "I'm Dr. Reed, oncologist at Boston Memorial. I'd like to follow this case," he told the paramedics, then turned to Michael. "I'll meet you at the hospital." Michael nodded numbly, watching as his wife was wheeled away. The fluorescent lights of the emergency room cast harsh shadows on Michael's face as he paced the waiting area. 3 hours had passed since they'd rushed Sophia in for tests. The anniversary dinner seemed like a lifetime ago now. "Mr. Warner?" Michael looked up to see Dr. Reed standing in the doorway, his expression grave. "How is she?" Michael asked, his voice cracking. "She's stable for now," Nathan replied. "But I'm afraid I need to speak with you about the test results. Is there somewhere more private we can talk?" Michael felt his stomach drop as he followed the doctor to a small consultation room. The walls were a pale, soothing blue, with framed nature photographs that nobody ever really looked at. They were meant to be calming, but nothing could calm the storm brewing inside him. "Mr. Warner, the preliminary tests show masses on your wife's pancreas, and her liver function is severely compromised. We need to do a biopsy to confirm, but the indicators strongly suggest pancreatic cancer." The words hit Michael like a physical blow. "Cancer? That's not possible. She's only 35. "I understand this is a shock," Nathan said gently. "Unfortunately, while pancreatic cancer is more common in older adults, it can occur at any age. What's concerning is that the presentation suggests it's already advanced." "What does that mean? Advanced?" Nathan met his gaze directly. "It means the cancer has likely spread beyond the pancreas. We'll need to do more tests to determine the exact stage, but I want to be honest with you. Pancreatic cancer is aggressive, and by the time symptoms appear, it's often progressed significantly." Michael sank into a chair, his face ashen. "But you can treat it, right? Surgery, chemotherapy, we'll explore all available options," Nathan assured him. "But I need to be upfront. The 5-year survival rate for advanced pancreatic cancer is quite low, about 5–10%. Michael's eyes widened. 5 to 10%? That's nothing. "It's not nothing," Nathan said firmly. "It means people do survive, and there are experimental treatments showing promise. We'll discuss all possibilities once we have the complete diagnosis." A nurse appeared at the door. "Dr. Reed, Mrs. Warner is awake now." Nathan nodded. "Would you like to see your wife?" Sophia looked small in the hospital bed, the white sheets emphasizing the yellow tint to her skin. Jaundice, a telltale sign of her liver being affected. When she saw Michael, she attempted a smile. "Some anniversary dinner, huh?" she said weakly. Michael took her hand, his eyes welling with tears. "I'm so sorry, Soph." "It's not your fault," she whispered. "What did they say? Why did I collapse?" Michael looked at Nathan, silently pleading for help. "Mrs. Warner," Nathan began, "I'm Dr. Reed. I was at the restaurant when you collapsed. I specialize in oncology at Boston Memorial Hospital." Sophia's grip on Michael's hand tightened. "Oncology? That's cancer." Nathan nodded, his voice gentle but direct. "The tests show masses on your pancreas, and we suspect the cancer may have spread to your liver, which is causing the jaundice. We need to do more tests to confirm the exact diagnosis and staging." Sophia closed her eyes briefly, absorbing the blow. When she opened them, they were clear and focused. "Tell me everything. No sugarcoating." Over the next 20 minutes, Nathan explained what they knew so far and outlined the next steps: more comprehensive scans, a biopsy, and consultations with specialists to determine the best course of treatment. "What about costs?" Sophia asked. "Our insurance is decent, but I know cancer treatment is expensive." Nathan noticed how Michael shifted uncomfortably at the mention of finances. It was subtle, a tightening around the eyes, a slight withdrawal of his hand from Sophia's, but Nathan had seen similar reactions before. Money concerns often revealed cracks in relationships that illness would later shatter completely. "Let's focus on your diagnosis first," Nathan suggested. "The hospital has financial counselors who can help navigate insurance and costs when the time comes." "Dr. Reed," Sophia said, her voice stronger now, "be straight with me. What are my chances?" Nathan met her gaze. There was something about her eyes, a clarity, a strength, that struck him. "Pancreatic cancer is one of the more challenging cancers we face. The 5-year survival rate for advanced cases is low, around 5–10%. But statistics are just numbers. They don't account for individual factors like your overall health, your age, your specific genetic makeup, or new treatments that might become available. I've seen patients beat odds much worse than these." "Thank you for your honesty," Sophia said quietly. "I'd like to be your oncologist if you're comfortable with that," Nathan said. "I have a particular interest in pancreatic cancer research." "Is that why you were so quick to help at the restaurant?" Michael asked, something defensive in his tone. Nathan hesitated. How could he explain the strange compulsion he'd felt to help this woman, the almost cosmic recognition he'd experienced when he heard her name? "I'm a doctor," he said simply. "Helping is what we do." But as he left the room to order more tests, Nathan knew there was more to it. He just couldn't explain, not yet, why he felt so drawn to Sophia Warner's case, or why he was already making a personal commitment to do everything in his power to save her. Over the next week, Sophia underwent a battery of tests that confirmed their worst fears: stage 4, pancreatic cancer that had metastasized to her liver. In the oncology department's consultation room, Nathan laid out their options. "Standard treatment would include chemotherapy to slow the progression and manage symptoms," he explained. "There's also a clinical trial at Dana-Farber that's showing promising results for your specific type of pancreatic cancer. I've taken the liberty of discussing your case with the lead researcher, and you would be a good candidate." Sophia sat straight-backed in her chair, absorbing every word. Michael sat beside her, his face a mask of concern, but Nathan noticed he seemed distracted, checking his phone whenever it buzzed. "The trial uses a combination of immunotherapy and targeted agents that attack cancer cells with specific genetic mutations," Nathan continued. "The early results show improved survival rates and quality of life compared to standard treatment." "What are the costs?" Michael asked immediately. "Clinical trials can be expensive, and insurance doesn't always cover experimental treatments. Actually, most costs in clinical trials are covered by the research sponsors," Nathan explained. "Insurance typically covers standard care costs. There would be out-of-pocket expenses for travel and some medications, but the financial burden shouldn't be overwhelming." Michael didn't look convinced. "And what about work?" "Sophia's a landscape designer with projects scheduled months in advance. How is she supposed to maintain her business through all this?" "Michael," Sophia said softly, placing her hand on his, "we're talking about my life here." "I know," Michael said quickly. "I just want to understand what we're facing." Nathan studied the couple carefully. Michael's concerns weren't unreasonable, but there was something in his demeanor that troubled Nathan. A distance, a calculation behind his words that seemed at odds with the situation. "Mrs. Warner," Nathan began. "Please, call me Sophia," she interrupted with a small smile. "Sophia," Nathan corrected himself, returning her smile. "Treatment will be intensive, and you will need strong support. Many patients find they need to take a leave of absence from work, at least during the most aggressive phases of treatment. I can reschedule some projects, pass others to colleagues," Sophia said thoughtfully. "My clients will understand." "And financially?" Nathan prompted gently. "We have savings," Sophia said, glancing at Michael, "and the house is almost paid off. We'll manage." Michael nodded, but his jaw was tight. "Of course we will, whatever it takes." As the consultation concluded, Nathan made a decision. "I'd like to oversee your case personally, even if you choose the clinical trial. I'll coordinate with the Dana-Farber team." "Why?" Michael asked bluntly. "You barely know us. Isn't this outside your usual procedures?" Before Nathan could answer, Sophia squeezed her husband's hand. "Michael, Dr. Reed is offering to help. We should be grateful." "I have a particular research interest in cases like yours," Nathan explained, keeping his voice neutral. "And I believe I can provide the continuity of care that gives the best chance for positive outcomes." What he didn't say was that from the moment he'd heard Sophia's name in the restaurant, he'd felt an inexplicable connection, as if he'd been preparing for this moment without knowing it. But that wasn't something he could explain to a frightened husband, or even to himself. Not fully. Not yet. "We're grateful for your interest, Dr. Reed," Sophia said firmly, giving her husband a pointed look, "and we accept your offer." As they left the consultation room, Nathan watched them walk down the corridor, Sophia leaning slightly on Michael, his arm around her waist. On the surface, they looked like any couple facing a devastating diagnosis together. But Nathan couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. The way Michael had reacted to discussions about finances, the subtle withdrawal when tough realities were mentioned. Nathan had seen it before. Some people simply couldn't handle watching someone they loved suffer, and he feared Michael Warner might be one of them. 2 weeks into Sophia's treatment, Nathan arrived at Boston Memorial Hospital earlier than usual. The dawn light was just breaking over the city as he made his way to his office, planning to review Sophia's latest test results before his rounds. She'd started the clinical trial, enduring the first round of the combination therapy with remarkable resilience, though the side effects had been brutal. His phone rang just as he was settling at his desk. The caller ID showed an unfamiliar number. Dr. Reed speaking. Dr. Reed? The voice was female, shaky, almost unrecognizable. "It's Sophia Warner." Nathan tensed, immediately alert. "Sophia? What's wrong? Are you experiencing new symptoms?" "No, it's not that." Her voice cracked. I don't know who else to call. Michael is gone." "Gone? What do you mean?" "I woke up this morning and he wasn't here. He left a note." Her voice broke entirely then, dissolving into quiet sobs. Nathan's grip tightened on the phone. "Sophia, are you at home?" "Yes. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Try to stay calm." Sophia's home was a charming Victorian in a quiet suburb, with a garden that, even in early spring, showed signs of a designer's touch. But as Nathan approached the front door, he noticed the lawn needed mowing, and some plants were wilting, small signs of neglect that spoke volumes about the chaos inside. Sophia answered his knock almost immediately, as if she'd been waiting by the door. The woman who greeted him was a shadow of the one he'd first met at the restaurant. The treatments had already taken their toll. Her face was thinner, her skin pallid, her hair noticeably thinner. But it was the hollowness in her eyes that struck him most, the look of someone who had been not just physically, but emotionally devastated. "Thank you for coming," she said, stepping back to let him in. "I'm sorry to bother you like this." "It's no bother," Nathan assured her, following her into a sunlit living room. The space was tastefully decorated with comfortable furniture and artwork that spoke of cultured tastes. But there were signs of disruption here too. Empty spaces on shelves where items had been removed. A wall with faded rectangles where pictures had once hung. "You said Michael is gone," Nathan prompted gently, sitting on the sofa across from her. Sophia handed him a folded piece of paper. Nathan opened it, his stomach tightening as he read the brief message. "Sophia, I can't watch you die. I'm sorry. Michael, that's it?" Nathan asked, disbelief coloring his voice. "This is all he left?" Sophia nodded, her hands trembling slightly in her lap. "I tried calling him, but his phone goes straight to voicemail. Then I started noticing things missing. His clothes, his laptop, our wedding photo." She swallowed hard. "So I checked our accounts." Nathan braced himself, already suspecting what was coming. "They're empty," Sophia said, her voice eerily calm now. "Our joint checking and savings accounts. He transferred everything out yesterday, apparently. The credit cards are canceled. Even the mortgage payment that was supposed to go through automatically yesterday didn't happen." Nathan felt a surge of anger so intense it momentarily robbed him of speech. In his years as an oncologist, he'd seen families tested by cancer in countless ways. He'd seen relationships strain and sometimes break. But this, to abandon a spouse at their most vulnerable and take everything, this was a special kind of cruelty. "Have you called the police?" he asked finally. Sophia gave a bitter laugh. "And tell them what? My husband left me and took his money? It's not illegal, Dr. Reed. Our accounts were joint. Legally, he had every right to clean them out." "Nathan," he corrected gently, "under the circumstances, I think we can use first names." She nodded, a ghost of a smile crossing her face. "Nathan, what about family? Friends, who could help? My parents are dead. I have a sister in Seattle, but we're not close. And friends," she shrugged helplessly. "Cancer has a way of showing you who your real friends are. Most people have kept their distance since the diagnosis. Too uncomfortable, I guess." Nathan considered their options. "Your treatment can't be interrupted, Sophia. We need to make sure that continues without disruption." "I don't see how," she said, her voice small. "I have maybe $2,000 in a personal account he didn't know about. My next mortgage payment is due in 2 weeks. The property taxes next month, and the medical bills." She trailed off, looking lost. "Did you try contacting Michael's office?" Sophia nodded. "His assistant said he's taken an extended sabbatical abroad." She seemed surprised I didn't know. A tear slipped down her cheek. 5 years of marriage, and he couldn't even face me. Just a note, 7 words. Nathan's mind was racing through possibilities. There were patient assistance programs, charity foundations, ways to delay payments, but none of that would solve the immediate housing crisis or provide the stable environment Sophia needed to battle her cancer. "May I?" he asked, gesturing to a notepad on her coffee table. When she nodded, he began jotting down information. "This is my personal cell number. Call me anytime, day or night. And this," he wrote another number, "is Sarah Morgan, the hospital's best social worker. She can help you navigate financial assistance programs." "I've never needed charity before," Sophia said quietly. "It's not charity," Nathan countered firmly. "These programs exist precisely for situations like yours, when illness creates unexpected financial hardship. Pride has no place in cancer treatment, Sophia. Use every resource available." She nodded, the fight temporarily gone from her. "Now, do you have any pain today? Any new symptoms?" Nathan shifted into doctor mode, performing an impromptu checkup. Her vitals were stable, but she was clearly exhausted and stressed. Dangerous conditions for someone undergoing intensive cancer treatment. As he was preparing to leave, Sophia touched his arm. "Why are you doing this? Coming to my house? Helping with all this? It's far beyond what doctors normally do." Nathan hesitated. How could he explain what he himself didn't fully understand? The pull he felt toward her case, the sense of responsibility that went beyond professional duty. "Let's just say I have personal reasons for taking special interest in pancreatic cancer patients," he said finally. "And I don't believe anyone should face this alone." It wasn't the whole truth, not even close, but it was all he could offer for now. As he drove back to the hospital, Nathan made a call to the financial department. By the time he reached his office, he had arranged for all of Sophia's treatments to continue uninterrupted, regardless of her ability to pay. If anyone asked, he'd find a way to explain. But right now, ensuring Sophia's care was all that mattered. The next few weeks brought a grim routine. Sophia's condition deteriorated as the treatment's side effects intensified. While the clinical trial protocol was fighting the cancer, it was also ravaging her already weakened body. Nathan watched with growing concern as she lost more weight, her energy depleting with each cycle of treatment. Yet somehow, despite everything, she maintained a quiet dignity that humbled him. She never complained, never missed an appointment, and even on her worst days, she greeted the hospital staff with genuine warmth. Nathan found himself going far beyond his professional obligations. He adjusted his schedule to personally oversee each of her treatments. He consulted with specialists across the country about her case. He even arranged for transportation when she was too weak to drive herself to appointments. His colleagues began to notice. "You're spending an awful lot of time on the Warner case," Dr. Peterson, the head of oncology, remarked one evening as they reviewed patient files. "Any particular reason?" Nathan kept his expression neutral. "She's responding well to the clinical trial. The data could be valuable for our research." Peterson hummed noncommittally. "And the fact that she's a non-paying patient with no insurance now doesn't concern you?" So, the financial department had escalated it. Nathan had been expecting this. "Cancer doesn't check bank accounts before it strikes, James," he replied evenly. "Her financial situation changed after diagnosis. We can't abandon treatment because of that." "No one's suggesting abandoning her," Peterson said, raising his eyebrows. "But the level of personal attention you're giving this case is unusual, especially given our department's current caseload." Nathan met his gaze steadily. "I'll make sure all my other patients receive appropriate care. The Warner case won't impact that." Peterson studied him for a long moment, then shrugged. "Your call. Just remember, we're doctors, not saints. You can't save everyone, Nathan." But as Nathan left the office, he couldn't shake the feeling that in Sophia's case, he had to try. Not just because she deserved it, though she did, but because of a connection he could feel but couldn't yet explain, a thread that seemed to have been woven between them long before they'd met. 3 months after Michael's disappearance, Sophia sat in Nathan's office, clutching a large envelope. Her hands shook slightly as she placed it on his desk. "Divorce papers?" she said flatly. "Apparently he's in Switzerland. His lawyer says he's transferred our assets to offshore accounts for business purposes. There's no point fighting it. I don't have the energy or the money." Nathan took the envelope, anger flaring again at the man who could so coldly discard his wife when she needed him most. "There's more," Sophia continued, her voice steady despite the pain evident in her eyes. "I've lost the house. The bank is foreclosing. I've applied for subsidized housing, but there's a waiting list. Sarah's been amazing, helping with applications for assistance, but..." She trailed off, looking out the window at the Boston skyline. "I never thought I'd be homeless and divorced at 35, with cancer no less. It's like winning some terrible lottery." Despite everything, she gave a small, wry smile that twisted Nathan's heart. "You're not going to be homeless," he said decisively. Sophia looked at him, confusion crossing her features. "What do you mean?" Nathan hadn't planned to make this offer. In fact, it had only just formed in his mind. But as soon as the words left his mouth, he knew it was right. "I have a property, a small guest house behind my home. It's sitting empty right now. You could stay there during your treatment. Sophia's eyes widened. Dr. Reed, Nathan. I couldn't possibly. You can, he interrupted gently. And I think you should. It's close to the hospital, which means less travel time for treatments. It's quiet and peaceful, perfect for recovery between sessions, and it would give me peace of mind knowing you have stable housing during this critical phase of treatment. But why would you do this? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. You hardly know me. Nathan hesitated, then decided to offer a piece of the truth. My mother had pancreatic cancer when I was in medical school. It's why I specialized in oncology. He paused, memories washing over him. She would want me to help. It wasn't the whole story, not by a long shot, but it was true. And right now, it was enough. Sophia studied his face, seeming to search for hidden motives. Finding none, she nodded slowly. Okay, just until I find something else, and I insist on paying rent when I can. We can discuss that later, Nathan said, relief flooding through him. For now, let's focus on your treatment. As Sophia left his office, Nathan sat back in his chair, wondering at the path his life had taken. 6 months ago, he couldn't have imagined inviting a patient to stay in his guest house, or feeling such personal investment in a case. Yet here he was, crossing professional boundaries that he'd always respected. But in his heart, he knew this wasn't just about being a good doctor. There was something more at work here, some connection that had been set in motion long before Sophia collapsed in that restaurant. He just hadn't put all the pieces together yet. The guest house behind Nathan's colonial home was small but charming, with large windows that filled the space with light and overlooked a meticulously maintained garden. Nathan had prepared it carefully for Sophia's arrival, stocking the kitchen with nourishing foods, placing fresh flowers on the dining table, and ensuring every comfort was considered. As he helped Sophia carry in her meager belongings, all she had left after selling most of her possessions to pay outstanding bills, he watched her face light up as she took in the garden visible through the windows. It's beautiful, she said softly, moving to the glass doors that led to a stone patio. Those are rare Japanese maples, aren't they? And the stonework on that path, it's exquisite. Nathan smiled, pleased by her appreciation. The garden was here when I bought the place. I've tried to maintain it, but I'm afraid I don't have much of a green thumb. Well, you've done a remarkable job, Sophia said, her professional eye evaluating the space. The structure is still perfect. Someone designed this with real vision. Perhaps when you're feeling stronger, you could advise me on it, Nathan suggested. From what you've said about your work, you must have quite the talent. A shadow crossed Sophia's face. My work seems like another lifetime now. I had to cancel all my contracts when I got sick. My reputation in the industry is probably ruined. Reputations can be rebuilt, Nathan said gently. First, we focus on getting you well. Sophia turned from the window, her expression suddenly vulnerable. What if I don't get well, Nathan? What if all this is just delaying the inevitable? The question hung in the air between them, the one that all cancer patients eventually ask, the one that even the most experienced oncologists never found easy to answer. Cancer treatment isn't just about cure rates, Nathan said finally. It's about giving your body the best possible chance to fight. And from what I've seen, Sophia, you're a fighter. She looked doubtful. Am I? I didn't fight when Michael left. I just crumbled. You were in shock, Nathan countered. And yet here you are, continuing treatment, moving forward. That's courage. Sophia didn't look convinced, but she nodded, turning back to unpack her few belongings. Nathan left her to settle in, returning to his own house with a strange feeling of rightness, as if a piece that had been missing from his life had finally clicked into place. The next morning, Nathan woke early to find Sophia already in the garden, seated on a stone bench, wrapped in a blanket despite the summer warmth. A side effect of her treatment was constant chills. She looked small and fragile in the morning light, but there was a peacefulness to her posture that he hadn't seen before. Good morning, he called softly, not wanting to startle her. She turned, a smile lighting her tired face. Good morning. Hope you don't mind me exploring. I couldn't sleep, and the garden was calling to me. Not at all. It's your space too now. He hesitated, then asked, would you like some tea? I was about to make some. That would be lovely. As Nathan prepared the tea, he found himself moving with unusual care, selecting his best cups, arranging everything on a tray with a precision that made him smile at himself. When was the last time he'd taken such care with a simple act like serving tea? It felt good, this small ritual of caregiving outside the clinical setting. They sat together in the garden, the morning sun warming the air around them as birds called from the trees. For a while, they simply enjoyed the quiet companionship, sipping their tea and watching the play of light through the leaves. This reminds me of a garden I designed years ago, Sophia said, eventually breaking the comfortable silence. For a woman with cancer, actually. She wanted a place where she could find peace during her treatment. I created something similar to this. Places of sun and shade, protected areas for windy days, plants that would offer something beautiful in every season. Nathan's heart quickened. Do you remember where? Or the woman's name? Sophia shook her head. It was one of my first big commissions, maybe 7 or 8 years ago. Somewhere in Cambridge, I think. The client was a referral, and I only met with her a few times. Her health was already declining when I designed the garden. Nathan nodded, trying to keep his expression neutral despite the surge of emotion he felt. Could it be? The timing would be right, the location too, but he needed to be certain before he said anything. It's strange, Sophia continued, unaware of his internal turmoil. I've designed dozens of gardens since then, but that one always stayed with me. The woman said something I've never forgotten, that in creating that garden, I wasn't just planting flowers, I was planting hope. That even if she didn't live to see everything bloom, she found comfort knowing it would bloom for others. Nathan's throat tightened. Those words, they were so familiar, almost exactly as he remembered them. That's beautiful, he managed to say. Sophia smiled wistfully. I've often wondered if the garden is still there, if someone is tending it. I hope so. I'm sure it is, Nathan said, his voice steadier now. Something created with such care would leave its mark. He wanted to tell her then, to reveal the connection that he now felt almost certain of, but something held him back. Sophia was fragile right now, physically and emotionally. Was this the right time to add another emotional revelation to her burden? No, he decided. Better to wait, to be absolutely certain, to choose the right moment. For now, it was enough to know that the threads connecting them might be even stronger than he'd thought. As weeks passed, Sophia's condition worsened. The clinical trial treatment was brutal, designed to attack the cancer aggressively, but taking a heavy toll on her body. There were days when she couldn't leave her bed, when even the short walk to the garden seemed impossible. On those days, Nathan brought the garden to her, cutting flowers to place by her bedside, taking photos of new blooms to show her, opening the windows so the scents could drift in. And when she was strong enough to sit outside, he made sure she was comfortable, bringing pillows and blankets, making the garden a sanctuary for her healing. But it wasn't enough. 6 months into treatment, scans showed the cancer continuing to spread despite their best efforts. The clinical trial wasn't working as they'd hoped. Nathan sat in his office late one night, reviewing Sophia's latest results with growing desperation. There had to be something else they could try, some other approach they hadn't considered. A knock at his door startled him. It was Dr. Peterson. You're here late, the older doctor observed, stepping into the office. His eyes fell on the scans displayed on Nathan's computer screen. Still obsessing over the Warner case, I see. Nathan didn't bother denying it. The trial protocol isn't working. I need to find an alternative. Peterson sighed, taking the seat across from Nathan's desk. Look, I know you've become invested in this patient, but you need to be realistic. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer that's not responding to our most advanced treatment protocols. You know what that means. It means we try something else, Nathan said firmly. Nathan, Peterson's voice softened. The hospital board is asking questions about the resources being allocated to a non-paying patient, about the extraordinary measures being taken for one case when we have hundreds of others. So it comes down to money, Nathan said bitterly. It comes down to reality, Peterson countered. Resources are finite. Difficult choices have to be made. And I'm concerned about you, professionally and personally. You've crossed lines with this patient that— What lines? Nathan interrupted, a defensive edge to his voice. She's living on your property, Nathan. You've personally covered costs for treatments not approved by insurance. You're spending more time on her case than on all your other patients combined. These aren't just professional boundaries you're crossing. They're ethical ones. Nathan stood up, anger flaring. There's nothing unethical about ensuring a patient receives proper care. At what cost? Peterson asked quietly. To the hospital? To your other patients? To yourself? When was the last time you took a day off? When was the last time you slept through the night without checking on her? The questions hit home because they were fair. Nathan had become consumed by Sophia's case, rearranging his entire life around her care. But how could he explain to Peterson what he could barely articulate to himself? That helping Sophia felt like fulfilling a promise made long ago, that her life had become mysteriously but inextricably linked with his own. I appreciate your concern, Nathan said finally, his voice controlled. But I'm not abandoning this patient. Peterson studied him for a long moment, then nodded. The board is meeting tomorrow to discuss resource allocation. They're specifically reviewing the Warner case. I suggest you prepare your arguments. He paused at the door. And Nathan, if you can't separate your personal feelings from your professional judgment, you might want to consider transferring her case to another oncologist. After Peterson left, Nathan sat motionless, the weight of the situation settling over him. The professional part of him knew Peterson was right. He had become too involved, had crossed lines that doctors were trained to maintain. But another part of him, a deeper, more instinctive part, knew he couldn't step away from Sophia's case. Not just because of the connection he suspected but hadn't confirmed, but because in the months since she'd moved into his guest house, as he'd watched her face devastating illness with quiet courage, as they'd shared early morning teas in the garden and late-night conversations when pain kept her awake. He'd come to care for her in a way that transcended doctor and patient, in a way he'd never expected but couldn't deny. Nathan picked up his phone and made a call he'd been avoiding for months. "Dad? It's Nathan. I need a favor." The next day, the hospital board met as scheduled. Nathan wasn't invited, but he didn't need to be. By mid-afternoon, Peterson appeared at his office door, his expression a mixture of disbelief and resignation. "Whatever strings you pulled, they worked," he said without preamble. "The board has approved continued treatment for Sophia Warner, all costs covered by an anonymous donation to the hospital." Nathan nodded, relief washing over him. "Thank you for letting me know." Peterson didn't leave. "It was your father, wasn't it? The Reed Family Foundation making a timely donation that just happens to cover all potential costs for one specific patient." Nathan didn't answer directly. "The donation will benefit many patients, not just one. That's not a denial." Peterson shook his head. "You know, when you joined this department, you were adamant about making your own way, about not using your family's influence or money. What changed?" What indeed? Nathan had spent his entire career distancing himself from his family's wealth and connections, determined to succeed on his own merits. Using his father's resources now felt like a compromise of those principles. And yet, faced with the alternative, watching Sophia be denied care she desperately needed, it had been no choice at all. "Sometimes we have to reevaluate our priorities," he said simply. Peterson looked like he wanted to say more, but instead he just nodded. "Well, your patient gets her treatment. I hope it's worth the compromise." After Peterson left, Nathan sat at his desk, turning over their conversation in his mind. Was it worth it? Using the family connections he'd spent years avoiding, risking his professional reputation, crossing boundaries he'd always respected? The answer came immediately, without hesitation. Yes. For Sophia, yes. Later that evening, Nathan found Sophia sitting in the garden, wrapped in blankets despite the summer evening's warmth. Her face was gaunt now, her body frail, but her eyes lit up when she saw him, a reaction that never failed to lift his spirits. "You look pleased with yourself," she observed as he sat beside her. "Good news about your treatment," he said. "We've been approved to try a new approach, a custom-designed targeted therapy based on your specific genetic profile." Sophia looked skeptical. "I thought those kinds of treatments were still experimental and expensive." "They are," Nathan acknowledged. "But you're an ideal candidate, and the hospital has received funding specifically for cutting-edge treatments like this." She studied his face, and he had the uncomfortable feeling she could see right through his explanation. "Just like that? After months of fighting for basic coverage, suddenly money is no object?" Nathan shrugged, trying to appear casual. "Research grants come through. Foundations make donations. The system works sometimes." "Nathan," Sophia said quietly, "what did you do?" He met her gaze, seeing the mixture of concern and gratitude there. What any doctor would do for a patient they believe in. Found a way to continue treatment. She didn't look convinced, but she didn't press further. Instead, she changed the subject. "I found something today, when I was feeling well enough to walk around the garden." She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, weathered stone marker, half hidden by moss. It was tucked behind the Japanese maple. Nathan's breath caught as she handed him the stone. Carefully carved into its surface was a simple inscription. "For Elizabeth Reed, who found peace in this garden 2014, 2015. Elizabeth Reed," Sophia said softly. "Any relation to you?" Nathan stared at the stone marker, memories flooding back. "My mother," he said, his voice barely audible. This was her garden. Understanding dawned on Sophia's face. "Your mother, was she the woman with cancer? The one I designed the garden for?" Nathan nodded, finally ready to share the truth he'd been holding back. "I recognized your name the moment I heard it in the restaurant. Elizabeth Reed's Garden of Hope, that's what she called this place. She talked about you often, the talented young designer who understood exactly what she needed." Sophia's eyes filled with tears. "I remember her now. She was so kind, so specific about what she wanted. Plants that would attract butterflies, places to sit in sun and shade, a view from her bedroom window." She looked around the garden with new eyes. "This garden. I created this garden." "Yes," Nathan said simply, "and it gave her more peace in her final months than anything else could. She would sit out here for hours, even when she was too weak to walk. Even in winter, we'd bundle her up just like you are now." He smiled at the memory, even as his eyes grew damp. "She said it made her feel alive when everything else was about death." "But I don't understand," Sophia said, wiping away her own tears. "If this was your mother's house, why didn't you tell me when we first realized the connection?" Nathan took a deep breath. "Because it's complicated. My parents separated when I was in college. My father, he's quite wealthy, from an old Boston family. He bought this house for my mother when she was diagnosed, so she could be close to her treatment at Boston Memorial. After she died, he wanted to sell it, but I couldn't bear the thought of strangers living here, changing her garden, so I bought it from him." He paused, then added, "I've kept my connection to the Reed family quiet professionally. I wanted to make my own way, not trade on the family name or money. Only a few people at the hospital know." "And now?" Sophia asked perceptively. "For my treatment?" Nathan met her gaze directly. "Now I've made my peace with using whatever resources are available, including my family's, to give you the best possible chance." Sophia was silent for a long moment, processing this revelation. Finally, she reached out and took his hand, the first time she had initiated physical contact between them. "Thank you," she said simply, "for everything, for being the one person who didn't walk away." In the fading light of the garden her mother had designed, with his hand warm in hers, Nathan felt a sense of completion, as if pieces of a puzzle he hadn't known he was solving had finally clicked into place. Two lives, connected by a garden, by illness, by the invisible threads of fate that sometimes lead us exactly where we need to be, even if we don't recognize it at first. "I couldn't walk away," he said softly. "Not from you." The words hung in the air between them, carrying more meaning than either was ready to acknowledge. But they were true, and for now, that was enough. Autumn arrived, painting Elizabeth Reed's garden in fiery colors that Sophia watched change from her window day by day. The new treatment protocol had stabilized her condition, not a remission yet, but at least the cancer wasn't advancing as aggressively. It was enough to give her good days among the bad, hours of clarity between the fog of pain medications. On one such good day in mid-October, Sophia sat at the small desk in the guest house, writing in a journal Nathan had given her, a place to record her thoughts, her fears, her hopes. The practice had become therapeutic, a way to process the emotional turmoil of the past year. A knock at the door interrupted her writing. Nathan stood there, his expression unusually hesitant. "Am I disturbing you?" he asked. "Not at all," Sophia smiled, closing the journal. "Come in." He entered carrying a worn leather-bound book. "I've been meaning to show you something, but I wanted to wait until you were feeling stronger." Sophia's curiosity was piqued. "What is it?" Nathan sat beside her at the small dining table, placing the book between them. "My mother's journal. She kept it during her illness, especially during the last year." Sophia's hand hovered over the journal, not quite touching it. "Are you sure you want to share something so personal?" Nathan nodded. "There are entries about the garden, about you. I thought you might want to read them." With gentle reverence, Sophia opened the journal to the pages Nathan had marked with a ribbon. The handwriting was elegant but showed signs of weakness. Some words trailed off, others pressed harder into the paper, as if the writer had to concentrate to form each letter. "April 15, 2014, the garden angel came today. That's what I've decided to call her. Sophia Warner, landscape designer extraordinaire, though she's far too modest to claim such a title. Young, probably early 20s, with kind eyes and a quiet confidence that immediately put me at ease. When I explained what I wanted, not just a garden, but a sanctuary, she understood instantly. She asked questions no other designer had thought to ask, not just about plants and sunlight, but about how I wanted to feel in the space. Did I want solitude or room for visitors? Sun or shade? Sitting or walking paths? What colors brought me joy? She listened with such attention, such care. I felt seen for the first time since my diagnosis, not as a patient, not as a dying woman, but as a person with desires and tastes that still matter. Daniel thinks I'm spending too much of my settlement on this garden. Perhaps I am. But what good is money when time is the only currency that matters now? I want to create something beautiful, something that will remain when I am gone. Sophia looked up, her eyes damp. She called me the garden angel? Nathan smiled softly. Keep reading. June 30, 2014, the garden progresses despite my declining health. Sophia comes regularly to oversee the work, always finding time to sit with me, share tea, tell me stories about each plant she selected. Today was a bad day, the pain nearly unbearable, but she brought photographs of the Japanese maples being planted, their leaves like delicate hands reaching toward the sky. We sat in my bedroom, the window open to catch the sense of fresh soil and new plantings. She described how the space would transform through seasons, promising that even in winter, there would be beauty to discover. Gardens are never finished, she told me. They're always becoming. Like people, I suppose. Even now, even dying, I am becoming something new. Nathan visited today as well. My serious, dedicated son, so focused on his medical studies he barely remembers to eat. He disapproves of the garden expenditure too, though he's too kind to say so directly. He thinks I should be focusing on the next clinical trial, the next treatment. He doesn't yet understand that at some point, the quality of life matters more than its length. I wish he could meet Sophia. Two healers, one of bodies, one of spaces. They would have much to teach each other. Sophia paused in her reading, looking up at Nathan with wonder. She wanted us to meet. It seems the universe had the same idea, Nathan said quietly. Sophia turned the page, continuing to read. September 18, 2014. The garden is nearly complete, and just in time. My doctors say weeks now, not months. But I've surprised them before. Sophia helped me walk the paths today. My first real tour of the completed space. Every detail is perfect. The stone bench positioned to catch morning light. The wind chimes that sing with the slightest breeze. The bird bath that has already attracted a family of cardinals. We sat together by the small pond, watching koi fish flash orange and white beneath lily pads. This is where you'll find me, I told her. After I'm gone, if you ever come back to visit this garden, this is where my spirit will linger. She cried then, this strong young woman who has poured so much care into creating my final sanctuary. I think she understands, better than my family, what this space means to me. Not just a garden, but a legacy, a piece of myself that will continue to grow and bloom long after I've returned to the earth. There's a rare flowering tree I've asked her to include, a Franklinia alatamaha, nearly extinct in the wild. It blooms in late summer with white flowers like camellias. I won't likely see it bloom, but I love knowing it will be here, surprising future visitors with its beauty. I must remember to tell Nathan about it, to ask him to watch for its first blooming, to remember me then, not with sadness, but with joy. Sophia closed the journal gently, tears flowing freely now. The Franklinia, I remember ordering it. It was the last plant installed. She looked up at Nathan. Did it survive? I don't recall seeing it in the garden. Nathan's expression grew pained. It died the winter after she did. I tried to save it, but he shrugged helplessly. As I said, I don't have her green thumb. Or yours. They're notoriously difficult, Sophia said, but beautiful when they thrive. She traced the cover of the journal with her fingertips. Thank you for sharing this with me. Your mother was a remarkable woman. She was, Nathan agreed, and she was right about you. The garden you created gave her peace when nothing else could. Sophia was quiet for a moment, absorbing the profound connection that had been revealed. Finally, she asked the question that had been forming in her mind since she began reading. Is that why you've done so much for me? Because of your mother? Because of the garden? Nathan considered the question carefully. At first, perhaps. When I heard your name in the restaurant, it was like a bolt of recognition. My mother had talked about you so often, had been so moved by your kindness, your understanding. And then to see you there, years later, facing the same disease that took her. He shook his head, still amazed by the coincidence. It felt like something important, something I couldn't ignore. Fate, Sophia murmured. Maybe, Nathan acknowledged. Or just a remarkable coincidence that gave me the chance to help the person who had helped my mother when she needed it most. But it's become more than that, hasn't it? Sophia asked perceptively. More than repaying a debt or honoring your mother's memory? Nathan met her gaze directly. Yes, he said simply. Much more. The admission hung in the air between them, neither a declaration nor a promise, but an acknowledgement of the deeper connection that had formed over months of shared struggles, quiet conversations, and growing understanding. Sophia broke the silence first. I should rest before my appointment this afternoon. It was a graceful step back from the emotional precipice they'd approached. Nathan nodded, taking the journal and standing to leave. At the door, he turned back. There's one more thing. On my mother's birthday next week, I was planning to plant a new Franklinia in the garden. I thought, if you're feeling up to it, you might help me choose the right spot. Sophia smiled, a genuine smile that reached her eyes. Still a rare occurrence these days. I'd like that very much. As Nathan left, Sophia returned to her own journal, her pen moving with renewed purpose across the page. Today had brought a revelation, a missing piece to the puzzle of why their paths had crossed. But it had also brought something else, a spark of hope she'd thought long extinguished, a reminder that even in the darkest circumstances, new beginnings were possible. A week later, Nathan and Sophia stood in the garden, the slender sapling of the Franklinia alatamaha between them. The day was crisp but sunny, perfect for planting. Sophia had helped Nathan select the ideal location, a sheltered spot with morning sun and afternoon shade, visible from both the main house and the guest house. Now, as Nathan dug the hole, Sophia leaned on her cane, directing the depth and width with professional precision. A little deeper, she instructed. These trees like room for their roots to spread. Nathan complied, digging until she nodded approval. Together, Nathan doing the heavy work while Sophia guided placement, they settled the tree into its new home, filled in soil around the roots, and watered it thoroughly. My mother would be pleased, Nathan said, stepping back to admire their work. Elizabeth Reed's garden, tended by the original designer. It needs more than just the tree, Sophia mused, her designer's eye evaluating the space. Companion plantings that complement but don't overwhelm it. Maybe witch hazel for winter interest, some spring bulbs for early color. Are you offering to redesign the entire garden? Nathan asked, pleased to see her professional passion reigniting. Not the entire garden, Sophia clarified. Just updates. Refreshing what your mother and I started. She glanced at him. If I'm still around for spring planting, that is. It was the first time in weeks she directly referenced the uncertainty of her future, the reality that despite stable scans, her prognosis remained guarded. You will be, Nathan said firmly. I have a good feeling about this new treatment protocol. Sophia gave him a look that was part skepticism, part amusement. Is that your medical opinion, Dr. Reed? Partly, he admitted, but it's also. He hesitated, then decided to share the thought. My mother believed in signs. She would say this, us meeting again, the garden connection, even your response to the new treatment, was the universe telling us something. And what would that be? Sophia asked softly. That your story isn't finished yet, Nathan said. That there are more gardens for you to design, more beauty for you to create. Something in his tone made Sophia study his face more closely. You've always been careful not to give me false hope. What's changed? Nathan met her gaze directly. Your latest blood work. The tumor markers have decreased significantly for the first time since we started treatment. It's too soon to call it a trend, but it's good news. Sophia finished for him, her voice steady despite the hope blooming in her eyes. It's good news, Nathan confirmed, the kind that makes planting trees for the future seem not just optimistic, but appropriate. Sophia turned to look at the slender sapling, its few leaves stirring in the autumn breeze. A tree that's nearly extinct in the wild, she mused. Surviving against the odds. Seems fitting. Nathan was about to respond when his phone rang. He checked the caller ID and frowned. I need to take this. It's the hospital. Sophia nodded, turning her attention back to the tree while Nathan stepped away to take the call. But even as she adjusted the mulch around the base of the sapling, she could hear his voice rising in alarm. When? How did he find out where she's staying? A pause. No, absolutely not. She's not well enough for visitors, especially not him. Tell security. Another pause. Longer this time. I understand. Yes, I'll handle it. When Nathan returned, his expression was troubled. Sophia knew immediately that something was wrong. What is it? She asked. Nathan hesitated, clearly reluctant to share the news. Michael is back in Boston. He came to the hospital looking for you. Sophia felt as if all the air had been sucked from her lungs. After nearly a year of silence, after the abandonment, the financial devastation, the divorce papers served without a single word of explanation, now he wanted to see her? Why? She managed to ask. He didn't say, Nathan replied, his voice tight with barely controlled anger. Just that he'd heard your condition had improved and wanted to speak with you. How would he know about my condition? That's what I'd like to know, Nathan said grimly. Patient information is confidential, unless he still has access to your insurance records. Sophia shook her head, confusion and anxiety washing over her. I don't understand. Why now? What could he possibly want? You don't have to see him, Nathan said firmly. After what he did, you don't owe him anything. Not your time, not a conversation, nothing. But even as he spoke, Sophia knew she would see Michael, not because she owed him anything, but because she owed herself closure. The wound of his abandonment had scarred over, but it had never fully healed. Perhaps confronting him was the only way to finally put the past behind her. I want to see him, she said quietly but decisively. Here, on my terms. Not at the hospital, not somewhere public. Here. Nathan looked like he wanted to argue but respected her decision. When? Tomorrow, Sophia said. Might as well get it over with. As they walked back to the guest house, Sophia leaned more heavily on her cane than usual, the emotional shock of Michael's return manifesting physically in increased fatigue and tension. Nathan noticed immediately, slowing his pace to match hers, ready to offer his arm if needed. Are you sure about this? He asked gently. Stress isn't good for your recovery. Neither is unfinished business, Sophia countered. I need to face him, Nathan, to understand why he left the way he did, and maybe, she paused, searching for the right words, maybe to thank him. Thank him? Nathan couldn't hide his shock. For abandoning you when you needed him most? For stealing your financial security? Sophia stopped, turning to face Nathan fully. If he hadn't left, I wouldn't be here now. I wouldn't have rediscovered this garden. I wouldn't have met you, not properly. Sometimes the worst things that happen to us lead to unexpected blessings. Nathan stared at her, amazed once again by her capacity for wisdom and grace, even in the face of adversity. Without thinking, he reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear, a gesture of tenderness that surprised them both. You're extraordinary, Sophia Warner, he said softly. I hope he realizes what he threw away. The moment hung between them, charged with unspoken feelings that neither was ready to fully acknowledge. Then Sophia took a step back, breaking the spell. I should rest, she said, her voice slightly unsteady. Tomorrow will be difficult. Nathan nodded, watching as she made her way to the guest house. He remained in the garden, his gaze moving from the newly planted Franklinia to the small stone marker honoring his mother. "What would you think of all this, Mom?" he whispered to the autumn air. "Your garden angel, here in your garden again. The two of us connected by threads neither of us understood until now. And tomorrow, the man who abandoned her coming back into the picture." As if in answer, a sudden breeze stirred the leaves, sending a shower of red and gold drifting down around him. Nathan smiled despite his concerns. His mother would have called it a sign, nature's way of saying everything was unfolding as it should, even if the pattern wasn't yet clear to human eyes. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges. For tonight, it was enough to know that Sophia's latest tests showed improvement, that they had planted a tree together, that whatever happened next, they would face it from the sanctuary of Elizabeth Reed's garden, a place created for healing, for hope, for peace. Michael Warner arrived at precisely 2 o'clock the next day, driving a sleek European sports car that he parked with ostentatious care in Nathan's driveway. From the window of the guest house, Sophia watched her ex-husband emerge from the vehicle, tanned, fit, expensively dressed, showing no outward sign that abandoning his dying wife had caused him any distress. Beside her, Nathan stood protectively close. "Remember, I'll be right outside. If you want him to leave, at any point, just say the word." Sophia nodded, grateful for his presence. She had spent the morning preparing for this meeting, not just physically, choosing clothing that made her look less frail than she felt, but emotionally, steeling herself for whatever Michael might say or do. "I'm ready," she said, more to herself than to Nathan. When the knock came, Nathan opened the door. The two men regarded each other with barely disguised hostility. "Dr. Reed," Michael said smoothly, recognition flickering in his eyes. "The doctor from the restaurant. How providential that you've been caring for my wife." "Ex-wife," Nathan corrected coldly. Michael's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Yes, of course. A technicality I hope to address today." He looked past Nathan to where Sophia stood. "Sophia, you look well." The blatant lie hung in the air. Sophia knew exactly how she looked, thin, pale, with the unmistakable marks of cancer treatment evident in her appearance. But she also knew she looked far better than she had a few months ago, when the cancer and treatments had ravaged her body to the point where she barely recognized herself. "Michael," she acknowledged with a nod. "Come in." Nathan reluctantly stepped aside to let Michael enter, then turned to Sophia. "I'll be in the garden. Call if you need me." Once they were alone, Michael surveyed the small guest house with critical eyes. "So this is where you've been living. Quite a step down from our home in Beacon Hill." "Our home that you stopped paying the mortgage on?" Sophia asked mildly, refusing to rise to his bait. Michael had the grace to look momentarily uncomfortable. Financial decisions had to be made quickly. Business opportunities that couldn't wait, like transferring our joint assets to offshore accounts. Sophia took a seat at the small dining table, gesturing for Michael to do the same. She was determined to conduct this conversation on equal footing, not allowing him to tower over her. Michael sat, arranging his features into an expression of contrition that might have been convincing to someone who hadn't lived with him for 5 years. "I know how it must have looked, Sophia, but I had my reasons." "I'm sure you did," she replied evenly. "What I'd like to know is why you're here now, after nearly a year of silence. Why the sudden interest in my well-being?" Michael leaned forward, his voice taking on an earnest quality that Sophia recognized from his business negotiations. "I heard your condition has improved, that you're responding to some new treatment." "How did you hear that?" Sophia asked, genuinely curious. "My medical information is private." A flicker of something, discomfort, guilt, crossed Michael's face. "I've kept tabs on you, from a distance, made some inquiries. I still care, Sophia." "You have an interesting way of showing it," she observed. "Most people who care don't empty bank accounts and disappear when their spouse is diagnosed with cancer." Michael sighed, running a hand through his perfectly styled hair. "I know it was wrong. I panicked. The thought of watching you suffer, watching you die. I couldn't handle it. But I've had time to think, to regret my actions. I want to make amends." "Amends," Sophia repeated, tasting the word. "What exactly did you have in mind?" Michael reached across the table, attempting to take her hand. Sophia withdrew it before he could make contact. "I want us to try again," he said, his voice low and persuasive. "The divorce isn't finalized yet. There's still time to withdraw the petition. We could start over, do things right this time. I have a house in Switzerland now, access to the best medical facilities in Europe. You could continue your treatment there, away from all this." He gestured vaguely at the modest surroundings. "All this?" Sophia prompted. Michael's expression hardened slightly. "Charity, Sophia. Living in a doctor's backyard, accepting handouts. It's beneath you." "Is it?" she asked thoughtfully. "I've learned a lot this past year about what truly matters, about the difference between those who stay when times are hard and those who run." "I made a mistake," Michael insisted. "A terrible mistake that I want to rectify. Isn't that what matters?" That I'm here now, wanting to help? Sophia studied her ex-husband carefully. There was something he wasn't saying, some angle he wasn't revealing. Michael had never made a move without calculating all potential benefits. Why now, Michael? What's changed? He hesitated just long enough for Sophia to know her instincts were correct. Nothing's changed, he said a little too quickly. I just realized what really matters. Would it have anything to do with the federal investigation into your business practices? Sophia asked quietly. The one that started 3 months ago when your former partner Jacob turned whistleblower? Michael's face went slack with shock. How did you? Jacob came to see me, Sophia explained. He felt guilty about what happened, about how you used company funds to finance your departure. He wanted to make sure I was okay before he went to the authorities. That backstabbing son of a... Michael caught himself, forcing his features back into a conciliatory expression. Jacob always had a thing for you. You can't believe anything he says. I believe the evidence he showed me, Sophia said calmly. Bank transfers, falsified records, tax evasion. It made for interesting reading. Michael's facade cracked, anger flashing in his eyes. Is that what this is about? You're trying to squeeze money out of me before the feds freeze my accounts? Sophia couldn't help but laugh. A genuine, if bitter, sound. You think I want your money? After what you did? Everyone wants something, Michael said coldly, including your doctor friend out there. You think he's helping you out of the goodness of his heart? Do you have any idea who the Reeds are in Boston? I know exactly who they are, Sophia replied. Nathan has been completely honest with me about his family. Michael snorted in disbelief. So he's told you about the Reed Family Foundation? About how his father controls half the philanthropic boards in New England? About the millions they donate to Boston Memorial every year? He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. He's not helping you because he cares, Sophia. He's helping you because you're a perfect research subject for his career advancement, a charity case with a rare cancer profile that could make his reputation if he publishes the results. Sophia felt a flash of anger so intense it momentarily stole her breath. How dare Michael try to taint the one pure thing in her life? The genuine care and support Nathan had shown her when everyone else, including the man sitting across from her, had abandoned her. I think you should leave, she said quietly, her voice steady despite the emotion churning inside her. Michael looked taken aback. Sophia, I'm trying to help you see the truth. You're vulnerable right now, easily manipulated. The truth? Sophia interrupted, her calm finally breaking. The truth is that you left me with a 7-word note when I needed you most. The truth is that you stole everything we had built together and ran away to save yourself. The truth is that while you were living it up in Switzerland, I was fighting for my life, alone, until Nathan came into the picture. She stood, surprising herself with the strength in her voice and posture. The truth, Michael, is that I'm grateful to you now. Grateful you left, because it showed me who you really are, and it opened the door to discovering what real support looks like, what real caring looks like. Michael stared at her, clearly not having expected this response. You're making a mistake, he said finally. When Reed gets whatever he wants from you, data for his research, a heartwarming story for his family foundation's annual report, whatever it is, he'll move on. That's what people like him do. No, Michael, Sophia said softly. That's what people like you do. She walked to the door and opened it, a clear dismissal. Goodbye, Michael. I wish you well with the federal investigation, and I hope someday you find whatever it is you're looking for. For a moment, Michael looked like he might argue further. Then his expression hardened, the mask of contrition falling away entirely. You'll regret this, he said, his voice cold. When the treatments stop working, when you're really dying and alone, you'll wish you'd taken my offer. I'm not alone, Sophia said simply. I haven't been since the day I moved into this guest house, and I'll never regret choosing authenticity over convenience, honesty over lies. She held the door wider. Please go. As Michael brushed past her, his expensive cologne cloying in the small space, Sophia felt a weight lifting from her shoulders, the final remnants of guilt, of self-doubt, of wondering if she could have done something differently to make him stay. In their place was a clear certainty. She was exactly where she needed to be. From the garden, Nathan watched Michael's hasty departure, the angry slam of the car door, the spray of gravel as he accelerated down the driveway. Only when the sports car disappeared from view did Nathan approach the guest house, concern etched on his features. He found Sophia standing by the window, looking out at the garden, a strange smile playing at her lips. Are you okay? He asked gently. She turned to him, and to his surprise, her eyes were clear, her expression peaceful. I am, she said, and for perhaps the first time since he'd known her, she sounded completely certain. Better than okay, actually. What did he want? Sophia moved to the small sofa, gesturing for Nathan to join her. To reconcile, supposedly. Though I suspect his sudden interest in my well-being has more to do with the federal investigation into his business practices than any genuine concern. Nathan's brow furrowed. Investigation? What investigation? Sophia explained about Jacob's visit 3 months earlier, about the evidence of financial crimes, about Michael's probable motivation for seeking to renew their relationship now. He's hoping that having a reconciliation with his dying wife will look good to prosecutors and judges, Nathan concluded, anger evident in his voice. That's reprehensible. It's very Michael, Sophia said with a shrug. Always calculating the angles, always looking for leverage. She hesitated, then added, he had quite a lot to say about you, actually. Nathan tensed. About me? About the Reed family. Your father's influence. The foundation. Sophia watched his face carefully. He seems to think you have ulterior motives for helping me. Nathan's expression darkened. Of course he would think that. People like Michael can't conceive of actions that don't have direct personal benefit. And do you? Sophia asked quietly. Have ulterior motives? Nathan met her gaze directly. If wanting you to survive against the odds is an ulterior motive, then yes. If caring about what happens to you beyond your value as a patient is an ulterior motive, then yes. He leaned closer, his voice intense. But if he suggested I'm using you for research, or for some kind of public relations benefit for my family, then he's projecting his own calculating nature onto me. Sophia studied his face, seeing the sincerity there, the genuine indignation at Michael's suggestion. I didn't believe him, she said simply. Not for a moment. Relief washed over Nathan's features. I should have told you more about my family sooner. It's just, I've spent my career trying to distance myself from the Reed name, trying to succeed on my own merits, using my father's connections to ensure your treatment continued. It was a compromise of those principles, but one I'd make again in a heartbeat. I know, Sophia said softly, and I'm grateful, not just for the treatment but for, she gestured around them at the guest house, the garden visible through the windows, all of this, the home you've given me, the care that goes far beyond what any doctor owes a patient. Something shifted in Nathan's expression then, a guardedness falling away, a decision being made. You're right that it goes beyond professional obligation, Sophia. I need you to know something I've felt but haven't said because the timing never seemed right, because your health was the priority, because I didn't want to complicate your recovery. Sophia's heart quickened. What is it? Nathan took her hand, his touch gentle but sure. I care for you, not just as a doctor for a patient, not just as a friend, but as a man who has come to admire your courage, your grace, your humor, even in the darkest moments. I care for you in a way I didn't expect, in a way that might be completely inappropriate given how we met, but in a way I can't deny any longer. The words hung in the air between them, honest and vulnerable. Sophia felt tears spring to her eyes, not tears of sadness or fear, but of a joy so unexpected it almost hurt. Nathan, she began, then stopped, overwhelmed by emotion. You don't need to say anything, he assured her quickly. I don't expect anything. I just needed you to know, especially after Michael's visit, that my motives have always been genuine. If they've evolved from professional care to personal feelings, it's been an organic process, a natural response to knowing you, to seeing your strength, to sharing this time with you. Sophia squeezed his hand. I care for you too, she said simply. More than I should, perhaps. More than I thought my heart was capable of after everything. But I can't ignore what I feel when I'm with you. Safe, seen, valued. It's something I never felt with Michael, even before the cancer. Nathan's smile was like sunrise breaking through clouds. So where does that leave us? In uncharted territory, Sophia admitted, with a lot of complications to consider. Your health being the primary one, Nathan acknowledged. Which is why I'm not pushing for definitions or commitments. I just wanted you to know where I stand. That whatever happens with your treatment, however long this journey continues, I'm here. Not out of obligation, but out of choice. Sophia felt a lightness she hadn't experienced in months, perhaps years, despite the cancer still lurking in her body, despite the uncertain prognosis, despite all the practical challenges ahead. She felt a sense of possibility that had been absent since her diagnosis. Thank you, she said softly, for telling me, for being honest when honesty was needed. Nathan brought her hand to his lips, pressing a gentle kiss to her knuckles. Always, he promised. Outside, in Elizabeth Reed's garden, the newly planted Franklinia stood slender but firmly rooted, ready to face whatever seasons might come. 3 months later, on a crisp January morning, Sophia sat in the oncology department's imaging center, waiting for her latest scan results. The past quarter had seen remarkable improvements in her condition, her energy returning, her weight stabilizing, her pain decreasing, but they had learned to be cautiously optimistic, to celebrate small victories without assuming larger ones. Nathan entered the consultation room, a file in his hands, his expression carefully neutral. Sophia had insisted, early in their evolving relationship, that he remain her physician despite their growing personal connection. I trust your expertise, she had told him, and your honesty. I need both. Well, she prompted now, unable to read his professional mask. Nathan placed the scan images on the lightboard, pointing to several areas. The pancreatic mass has reduced by 60% since we started the targeted therapy. The liver metastases are responding even better, almost 70% reduction, and your tumor markers are approaching normal ranges. Sophia stared at the images, trying to comprehend what she was seeing. Are you saying, "No, I'm not using the word remission yet," Nathan cautioned. "But this is a significant, measurable response, better than we could have hoped for. What does it mean for my prognosis?" Nathan sat beside her, allowing his professional demeanor to soften slightly. "It means we've moved the needle, Sophia. Instead of talking about months, we're now talking about years, potentially many years, if this response continues." Sophia absorbed this news, emotions welling up so intensely she couldn't immediately speak. After so many months of bracing for the worst, of making peace with a foreshortened future, the possibility of years stretched before her like an unexpected gift. "I need to design a garden," she said finally, surprising them both with a non sequitur. Nathan blinked. "A garden? For the hospital," Sophia explained, the idea forming as she spoke. "A healing garden, like the one I designed for your mother. A place where patients can find peace during treatment, where families can gather strength, where hope can grow alongside whatever is planted there." Understanding dawned on Nathan's face. "That's a wonderful idea. The hospital has that unused courtyard near the south entrance. It's been an eyesore for years, just concrete and a few struggling shrubs. I saw it during my first treatments." Sophia nodded. "I remember thinking even then how much potential it had, how much it needed a designer's touch." She looked at him, excitement building. "I couldn't do anything about it then, but now, if I really do have years rather than months, I want to create something meaningful with that time, something that gives back." Nathan smiled, his eyes shining with pride and something deeper. "I think that's perfect, and I happen to know the chairman of the hospital board fairly well. I'm sure he'd be interested in hearing such a proposal." "Your father," Sophia guessed. Nathan nodded, looking slightly chagrined. "The same, though I should warn you, once he meets you, he'll never stop pestering you for garden advice. He's been trying to recreate my mother's garden at his Beacon Hill home for years, with limited success." "I'd be happy to help," Sophia said softly. "It would be an honor to continue your mother's legacy that way." They shared a smile, both understanding the deep significance of the moment, not just the promising scan results, but the way their lives continued to intertwine around Elizabeth Reed's garden, around shared purpose, around a connection that had defied the odds as stubbornly as Sophia's body was now defying her cancer. Spring arrived in a riot of color and new growth. In the hospital courtyard, what had once been a neglected space of cracked concrete and dying shrubs was now a construction zone, the beginnings of Sophia's vision taking shape under the skilled hands of landscapers she had personally selected. The project had moved with remarkable speed, thanks in no small part to a generous donation from the Reed Family Foundation, specifically earmarked for the creation of the Elizabeth Reed Healing Garden. Sophia had insisted on naming it after Nathan's mother, in honor of the woman whose original garden had created the thread connecting their lives. On a warm May afternoon, Sophia stood at the edge of the construction site, reviewing blueprints with the landscape foreman. Her appearance had transformed along with the garden space, her hair growing back in soft waves, her face filled out, color returned to her cheeks. She still tired easily, still required regular treatments, still faced an uncertain long-term prognosis. But for now, for this moment, she was alive and thriving in ways that had seemed impossible a year earlier. "Ms. Warner?" Sophia turned to find a young nurse approaching, looking slightly nervous. "Yes? There's a woman here to see you. She says she's your sister, Shannon Warner?" Sophia froze in surprise. Her sister, whom she hadn't seen in over 2 years, whom she'd spoken to only briefly after her diagnosis, was here? "Where is she?" "In the main lobby. Should I tell her you're busy? Or—" No, Sophia said quickly. "I'll come right away." In the hospital's spacious lobby, Shannon Warner stood awkwardly near the information desk, looking so much like their mother that it momentarily took Sophia's breath away. When Shannon spotted her, uncertainty flickered across her features, then relief. "Sophia," she breathed, crossing the space between them. "You look amazing." "Shannon," Sophia replied, accepting her sister's tentative hug. "What are you doing in Boston? Is everything okay?" Shannon nodded, looking embarrassed. "Everything's fine. I saw the news about Michael, the arrest. It mentioned you, said you were being treated here, that you were involved in creating a healing garden." She shrugged helplessly. "I should have come sooner. I'm so sorry, Sophia, for not being there when you got sick, for letting distance and old hurts keep me away." Sophia's mind reeled. Michael's arrest? She hadn't seen any news, had been so immersed in the garden project and her treatments that she'd been barely glancing at headlines. "When was Michael arrested?" she asked. Shannon looked surprised. 3 days ago," It's been all over the financial news. Securities fraud, tax evasion, wire fraud. They arrested him at some gala in New York. Very public, very humiliating. She studied her sister's face. You really didn't know? Sophia shook her head, a complicated mix of emotions washing over her. Not satisfaction exactly, not pleasure in another's downfall, but a sense of justice being served, of balance being restored to a universe that had seemed wildly unfair for so long. No, she said finally. I've been focused on other things. Shannon glanced around the lobby, at the banner announcing the upcoming dedication of the Elizabeth Reed Healing Garden. Like this garden project? The article said you designed it. Sophia nodded, a smile spreading across her face despite the news about Michael. Would you like to see it? It's still under construction, but the bones are there. As she led her sister through the hospital corridors toward the courtyard, Sophia felt a strange sense of completion. Another circle closing, another relationship finding its way back to her now that she had found her way back to life. The Elizabeth Reed Healing Garden was dedicated on a perfect June morning, exactly 1 year after Sophia had moved into the guest house behind Nathan's home. The hospital courtyard, once a bleak concrete expanse, had been transformed into an oasis of tranquility. Winding paths, comfortable seating areas, carefully selected plantings that engaged all the senses. A crowd had gathered for the ribbon cutting, hospital staff, board members, patients and their families, local media. Nathan stood beside his father, Richard Reed, a distinguished older man whose stern features softened whenever he looked at his son or at Sophia. Ladies and gentlemen, Richard addressed the gathering, his voice carrying easily across the courtyard. Today we dedicate this healing garden not only to my late wife, Elizabeth, who found such solace in nature during her own battle with cancer, but to all who come to Boston Memorial seeking healing, hope, and comfort. He gestured to Sophia, who stood nearby. We are profoundly grateful to Sophia Warner, whose visionary design has created this sanctuary, and whose personal journey from patient to creator embodies the spirit of resilience that this garden celebrates. Applause rippled through the crowd as Sophia stepped forward to cut the ribbon stretched across the garden's main entrance. As the red ribbon fell away, people moved forward eagerly to explore the new space, admiring the plant selections, settling onto benches, discovering the small water feature that created a gentle, soothing soundtrack. Nathan made his way to Sophia's side, pride evident in his expression. It's magnificent, he said, looking around at what she had created. Even better than the blueprints suggested. Gardens are never just blueprints, Sophia replied, watching as an elderly patient in a wheelchair was guided to a sunny spot near blooming lavender. They're living things, always changing, always growing. Like people. Nathan's hand found hers, fingers intertwining naturally. Over the past months, their relationship had evolved cautiously but steadily. Professional boundaries carefully navigated, ethical considerations addressed through consultation with colleagues, Sophia's treatment managed by a team of specialists with Nathan as coordinator rather than sole provider. What had begun as doctor and patient had transformed into partners, into two people linked by circumstance, choice, and a deepening love that neither had expected but both now cherished. I have something to show you, Nathan said, guiding her away from the main celebration toward a secluded corner of the garden. A last-minute addition that didn't make it into the final plans. Tucked behind a decorative stone wall, in a quiet nook designed for private reflection, stood a slender tree with distinctive leaves. Sophia recognized it immediately. A Franklinia, she breathed. Like the one we planted in your mother's garden. Nathan nodded. This one came from the Arnold Arboretum, a cutting from one of their mature specimens. They were quite interested in our story, in the connection between my mother's garden and this one. Sophia touched the tree's trunk gently, feeling the life pulsing beneath the bark. Do you think it will bloom this year? The horticulturist said it might, Nathan replied. Late summer most likely, August or September. Then we'll have to visit often, Sophia said, to make sure we don't miss it. Nathan's arm slipped around her waist, drawing her close. I was thinking we might see it every day, actually, if you wanted to move from the guest house to the main house, with me. Sophia turned to face him, her heart suddenly racing. Are you asking me to move in with you? I'm asking for more than that, Nathan said softly. I'm asking if you'd consider making our arrangement permanent, if you'd consider becoming my wife. Sophia stared at him, momentarily speechless. Despite the deepening of their relationship over recent months, despite the love that had grown between them, marriage hadn't been discussed. Her recent experience with the institution had left scars, and her ongoing health concerns had made long-term planning seem presumptuous. Nathan, she began, my prognosis is still uncertain. The cancer could return. I might have years, or months, or decades, he finished for her. None of us knows how long we have, Sophia. My mother taught me that. What matters is how we spend the time we're given, and whom we spend it with. He took both her hands in his. I want to spend whatever time we have, whether it's 1 year or 50. With you. Tears welled in Sophia's eyes. Even knowing the medical challenges ahead, the treatments, the scans, the uncertainty, especially knowing those things, Nathan said firmly, I've seen your strength, your resilience. I've watched you transform suffering into beauty, fear into hope. There's no one I'd rather face life's uncertainties with than you. From elsewhere in the garden came the sounds of the dedication ceremony continuing. Applause, conversation, celebratory toasts. But in their private corner, time seemed suspended as Sophia considered Nathan's proposal. In the year since her diagnosis, she had lost almost everything. Her health, her financial security, her marriage, her career. Yet standing here now, in a garden she had designed, beside a man who had seen her at her absolute worst and loved her anyway, she felt richer than she ever had when her life had seemed perfect on the surface. Yes, she said simply, the word carrying all the certainty her heart felt. Yes, I would be honored to be your wife. Nathan's face lit with joy as he gathered her into his arms, kissing her with a tenderness that spoke of reverence for the fragility and resilience of life, of love, of second chances. As they walked back to rejoin the celebration, arm in arm, Sophia glanced back at the Franklinia, the rare tree that had nearly vanished from the wild but survived against the odds, that bloomed late in the season when other flowers had faded, that linked her past to her present in ways she never could have imagined when she first collapsed in that restaurant a year ago. One man had abandoned her when she needed him most, unable to bear the weight of her illness, the prospect of her death. Another had stepped forward, unwilling to let her go, committed to fighting alongside her whether for months or decades. And in the garden between them, first Elizabeth Reed's and now this new healing space, life continued its stubborn, beautiful cycle of growth, decay, and renewal. The garden her younger self had designed for a dying woman had created a thread of connection that would eventually lead to her own healing, her own second chance at love and life. As she and Nathan rejoined the dedication ceremony, accepting congratulations for the garden's completion, Sophia felt a sense of completion within herself as well, a circle closing, a story continuing, a new chapter beginning in the book of her life. She had entered Boston Memorial Hospital as a patient, expecting death. She was leaving it as a creator, embracing life. And between those 2 points, a garden had grown, not just of plants and pathways, but of hope, of connection, of love that had flourished in the most unlikely soil. The Franklinia alitamaha, the rare flowering tree that connected Sophia and Nathan's story, is named after Benjamin Franklin and is considered extinct in the wild. The only specimens that exist today are descendants of seeds collected before 1803. Like this remarkable tree, the most beautiful parts of our lives sometimes emerge from what seems lost or impossible. A garden designer creates a sanctuary for a dying woman, never knowing that years later, that same garden would become her own place of healing. A doctor helps a stranger in a restaurant, unaware that she once brought peace to his mother in her final days. These threads of connection, invisible until they're suddenly, vividly revealed, weave through all our lives, creating patterns we often recognize only in retrospect. Thank you for spending this time with Sophia and Nathan's story. Until next time, look for the unexpected gardens in your own life, the connections that might be growing, unseen, until the perfect moment to bloom.